Let's talk about forgiveness. It's a word we all use, but what does it really mean? Especially when you're told to forgive someone when everything inside you is screaming, that's not fair. Or when you're reading ancient scriptures and they seem to say two different things at once. Today, we're going to try and untangle some of that. We're diving deep into the theology of forgiveness by tackling three huge questions. Let's get into it.
And we're going to start with a real head-scratcher, one that comes from a super famous passage in the Bible. It's this question that can trip a lot of people up. If my sin is ultimately about me and God, a vertical problem, then why do I also have to go and make things right with the people I've actually hurt? You know, the horizontal part.
Okay, so these are the words of King David, and you really have to know the backstory here to get why they're so jarring. He wrote this psalm after he had an affair with a woman named Bathsheba, and then, to cover it up, had her husband Uriah killed in battle. I mean, he clearly, undeniably sinned against them. And yet, he turns to God and says, "Against you, you only have I sinned." So, what is going on here? Well, the answer, and this might surprise you, is actually hiding in the ancient sacrificial system. Now, I know that can sound really complicated, but it's actually this brilliant piece of theological engineering that deals with this exact problem. See, the first thing you've got to understand is that this wasn't some one-size-fits-all kind of deal. The system had different tools, right? Different sacrifices that were specifically designed to handle the different ways that sin messes up our world, both vertically between us and God and horizontally between each other. So the first tool in the toolbox was the sin offering. You can think of this as the Godward part, the vertical dimension. Its entire job was to deal with the guilt a person carried before God. It was all about purification, about cleansing that spiritual stain that sin leaves behind. But, and this is key, that wasn't the whole story. The system had a second crucial tool, the guilt offering. And this one was all about the horizontal damage, the mess you made with other people. In fact, if your sin hurt someone else, the priest wouldn't even accept this offering until you first went and made restitution. You had to go make things right with the person you wronged first. And right there, that's the solution to our first question. David's statement is theologically spot on. All sin, at its root, is a violation of God's perfect character and his law. But the very system he lived under insisted, demanded, that you could not be right with God while you were still wrong with your neighbor. The two were totally intertwined. So this leads us right into our second big question. I mean, why build this whole elaborate, messy, and let's be honest, really costly system in the first place? What can this ancient practice possibly teach us about how we should think about forgiveness today?
I mean, just think about the sheer scale of this thing. We're not talking about one or two offerings here and there. Leviticus lays out 5 major categories of sacrifice. This wasn't some minor detail of their religion. It was the absolute main event. It was the very heart of their worship.
And that's the whole point. Every single animal brought to that altar, every single time, was this gut punch of lesson that forgiveness has weight. It's not a light and easy thing. It's not just saying, oops, my bad. It costs something. Sin creates a debt, and that debt has to be paid. And you know, that priority is just so different from how we often think today. We tend to look for miracles, for God to swoop in and fix our problems. But for ancient Israel, their entire religious life revolved around the temple, and the temple was all about one thing: atonement. For them, the central problem wasn't sickness or poverty, it was sin. All right, let's get to our third and final question. And honestly, this is the one that probably hits closest to home for all of us. It's that gut reaction we have when someone tells us to forgive a person who has really deeply hurt us. But that's just not fair. I mean, just think about it for a second. The stories we love, the movies we watch, they're almost always revenge stories. We are just wired emotionally and culturally to believe that justice means the person who caused the pain has to pay. We get this deep satisfaction when the bad guy finally gets what's coming to him. So you've basically got these two competing stories, these two ways of seeing the world. On one hand, you have the revenge story, which just feels so right and natural to us. It says justice demands that the offender pays. But then you have the gospel story, which offers this completely radical alternative. It says justice is fulfilled, but not by punishing the offender. It's fulfilled through atonement, through a substitute paying the price instead. And this right here, this might be the single most revolutionary idea in this whole explainer. It completely flips our gut instinct about justice on its head. The revenge story screams, you will pay for what you did. But the gospel quietly declares, I will pay for what you did. It doesn't pretend the debt isn't real, it transfers it. So, all of these different threads we've been pulling on, the vertical and horizontal parts of sin, the incredible cost of forgiveness, and this radical challenge to our idea of fairness, they all come together. They find their ultimate answer in one single historic event. And this is where it all snaps into focus. Every one of those Old Testament sacrifices was like a signpost pointing to something greater. The sin offering, it pointed to Christ bearing our sin. The guilt offering, the one that required you to pay people back, it pointed to Christ paying the cosmic debt that we could never, ever repay. He is the ultimate fulfillment of that entire complex system. The writer of the book of Hebrews just nails it. He says that whole costly system was like a shadow being cast by a reality that was still to come. It was absolutely essential for teaching us the grammar of forgiveness, but it was never the final word. Christ is the reality that all those shadows were pointing to all along. So we're going to end with this one last thought. Our gut tells us that justice looks like revenge. It feels right, it feels fair. But what if the deepest, truest, most profound form of justice doesn't look like an enemy getting punished, but like a friend making a sacrifice? What if ultimate fairness isn't found in getting even, but in redemption?